2013. We only have 2 speakers that have indicated they want to address us today, and we only have 1 here at the moment. So we may be done and dusted in a few minutes. So we'll get straight to the apologies. I have apologies from Mayor Andrew, Councillor Henry, Councillor Taylor, Deputy Mayor Gallagher, Councillor Mallett. Are there any? Who else is? I think that's everyone, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councillor Cassim, we'll put him in. Yeah, I thought he was coming too. Okay, we'll put Councillor Cassim in for lateness then. Was he? 2 hours late. Oh, we'll be done by then. Okay, so I'll move that those apologies be moved and seconded by Councillor Bunting. Thank you. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Right, confirmation of the agenda. Elected members, you've got a spare replacement page for page 21 of the agenda. Claire sent out an email last night just saying there were a few errors in there, so you've got a corrected page there. I think that was all for that. The other extra documents that you have on your table are from 2 submitters who wanted to speak. That was the Ministry of Ed submission 93 and Nicola Walker submission 86. They've given us printed handouts in lieu of them speaking. So those are there. So with that, I'll move that the agenda be received, seconded by Councillor Bunting. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Any declarations of interest? Okay, if we can just do the minutes of 31 August 2017, which are on page 4. These were the minutes from the traffic changes and parking restriction changes. We had that meeting in Committee Room 1. I can confirm that the minutes are accurate, so I'll move the minutes. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Tooman this time. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Right. Okay, so councillors, we're on page 13. I'll run it the same as we've done previous hearings because it seems to have worked quite well. We'll hear from our submitters first. They'll be given 5 minutes to speak. We'll have a few questions after that, given we've got a little bit of time. And then Robin will take the hot seat and present the staff report. We'll have questions from her. Remember, we're here to listen, not deliberate. If there are anything that, any other information you want included in the deliberations report, which will go to the 5th of December Growth and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Councillor McPherson, then that would be the time to let Robin know. All right, so we'll crack on. Mark, is it? Good morning, Mark. Welcome. Come and sit down at the table. So, Mark, you've got 5 minutes to present your submission now. Councillors, Mark's submission is on page 141 of the electronic document, and it's submission 67. So Mark, the bell will ding at 4 minutes and then you need to wind up.
Perfect. So to start, I live on or near Gordonton and Thomas Road intersection, and some things that I've observed over the time that these accidents have been happening, most of them seem to be outside of peak traffic hours. And I don't know how to address the drivers actually driving through those intersections, because most of those seem to be caused by impatience and that kind of thing. My suggestion, I did some calling around to try and find out what would be the best way to actually do this. Speaking to councillors, it's clear that it needs to be either a robot or a traffic light or a traffic circle. I tend to lean towards a traffic light because then Gordonton can run freely, it's busy all the time, and then as people come onto Thomas Road and turn into Gordonton, the traffic will stop either way. I also thought of going down the line of investigating if traffic cameras could be put in place to actually capture the people and, you know, teach them and help them to learn either via their pockets or something that it's not okay to do the wrong thing, because it's more about education than it is about finding people. That's just a thought, that's a feeling. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The other observation I've made is there are a couple of young kids that live on the opposite side of Gordonton, and they seem to be successful going to and coming from school, crossing that road on foot. I think a traffic light would assist them getting across that road a bit safer as well, but to date I believe none of them have actually been hit. So if kids can get it right, I'm sure adults driving vehicles can also get it right.
Great, all right, thank you, Mark. We'll go to questions. Councillor McPherson.
What do you think about the speed limit situation along Gordonton? It's 50 k's obviously coming out of Thomas to the end, but it's 80 k's except when the new variable speed limit kicks in just around the intersection. But the stretch, I'm thinking of the stretch between Wairangi Drive and Thomas Road, maybe a little bit further up the hill.
To be honest, I think the 60-kilometre speed limit it should suffice. It should be good across that, because that would cover Puketaha as well, and make that a bit safer, although there doesn't seem to be that many accidents at that intersection. I think it might just be because of visibility. But I think, personally, I feel that it would be a good thing. When the traffic speed was reduced, for that extended period down to 60 and 50, sorry, it was 50 down almost to Puketaha, a lot of people actually did that. They did slow down. And then they did speed up afterwards, but it was almost like put your foot down and see if you can do a wheel spin and just get up to 80 as quickly as you can, right? So I think if you had to make that section all the way down to the end of the road, because you've obviously got a lot of houses on that on Gordonton as well, where people try to get in and out as well, it will help them too.
Okay, thanks.
Because it's going to become a built-up area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Tooman.
Living in that area, the new variable message sign which has been put in place there, have you observed that there is sufficient time once the 60 flashes up for people to react to that?
I feel that there is sufficient time. However, I would have thought that it would have been put a little bit further down the road.
So you think it's too close to that?
It's way too close, yes. Because it's, as you get there, you can see it for quite a way because it's an electronic sign. But it would be better if it was slightly back so you can actually, slow down in time.
Okay. And from your observation, do you believe that the vast majority of these crashes are actually caused through driver error?
I would tend to think that, yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Mark, for your submission. That's all the questions we have for you today.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thank you. So our other submitter, Richard Brown, isn't here. And Claire, I think, what were you saying to me this morning? We didn't have a phone number we could confirm. We only had a physical address, is that right? So we've had no confirmation back. Okay, so I think given the time, they were both told to come to be here at 9:30. So given the time now, I think we'll just carry on. We have his written submission. Yeah. All right. Robin, you're up. So page 13, elected members. So Robin's just going to briefly go over the analysis report. And then I asked Democracy this morning just to put together a more concise recommendation in line with what we've done in the past, so that'll flick up on the board soon.
So good morning, councillors. I'll take the report as read and just note a few highlights. Just one of the notes is that we actually received 143 submissions, so there was one submission that got picked up at the last minute after the report had been submitted. And as they outlined, that was a really good response to the 11 different proposals that we had put forward for change. And the submissions have been analysed. I've gone through each of the submissions, had a look at the comments and tried to pull them together into some key themes for you. I guess that there's some quite distinct support for these lower speed limits, particularly around schools. There was slightly less support for some of the other locations, but still generally the submissions were in support and in favour of what we were proposing. And I think that's probably the key parts. There were a couple of additional items raised through the submission process, which are outlined on page 18 of the report. So there were requests for quite a few additional sites to be considered. The way this process and the consultation process works is basically we can't add them in or amend this process because we're required to go out and consult fully on any proposal. So what I'm recommending is that those requests get captured along with all the other requests that we get for speed limit changes, and we can bring them through to the Speed Management Task Force in time and look at the next bundle of speed limit changes. So that was the first point. Second point under 25 was the legality of the proposed speed limit. So as you will be aware, during the consultation period, the NZTA were out consulting on changes to the speed limits rule 2003, and during our consultation period that was adopted by the Minister and came into effect. So we now have Speed Limits Rule 2017 as our guiding piece of legislation. So they just asked us to have a look and make sure that we were happy with everything that we have done. Basically the process we followed was in accordance with that draft because we were aware of it, so we're comfortable that everything has been done in accordance. And then the final one, which is one that is a little bit tricky, but we think that we can pick up through the committee meetings, future committee meetings, is the fact that Waikato District are currently out consulting on speed limit changes. And we do have a number of roads that abut Waikato District and actually have the legal boundary running down the centre line. And in this case, they have one proposed change, which is Rotokauri Road, where they're proposing to put an 80 in place, which actually fits really nicely with the work that we've done previously and makes more sense out on site. So we'll be looking just to incorporate that in our bylaw as that goes through. So apart from that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yep, great. Thanks, Robin. Councillor McPherson?
Got a few, thanks. I can't find the page for this at the moment, but one of the, I guess it's, it's number 11 under point 17, paragraph 17. It's the Silverdale Hillcrest School one. I just want to get my head around what happens when you've got, in that case, you've got one school on one road and on the T-junction you've got another school, but the high school obviously has kids coming from the other road. Who controls the signs and things like that? Because if they've got slightly different starting times, there could be an issue there. How does that work?
So we have got this sort of situation in other locations as well. So both schools will have a controller, and whenever they turn it on, they get the full coverage for both roads, but primarily at Silverdale Road and Masters Ave.
Yep.
And basically what the controller will do was just, and really the key problem was that the primary school finish earlier.
Yeah, so it's more who turns it off is the problem, isn't it?
It switches off automatically. So when the school turn it on,
yep.
So the primary school will turn it on and it will go on for its allocated, say, 20 minutes.
Yep.
The high school will then switch theirs on because they may get out, say, 15 minutes later.
Yep.
The timer will then reset in effect and give them their 20 minutes. So it means that they get their full 20-minute allocation. It
was more, I was wondering what happens if, say, Silverdale School finishes at 3 and it goes for a quarter of an hour and stops just before the Hillcrest kids get out. So I think they have some different times at different days.
Yes, so the Hillcrest will be able to turn theirs on. So, and it'll kick on again. So if it goes off, it will only be for the short period.
But if Hillcrest turns it off while if one of them turns it off while the other one's in the midst of, just let their kids out.
The equipment will pick up on that. And
so it won't switch off.
No.
Provided Hillcrest has said turn it on.
That's right.
As
long as they switch it on, they will get the coverage that they need.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
And the schools know how that works, the two schools in those situations?
Yes, so we've got a similar setup in Collins Road with the
Yep.
high school there and the primary school round the corner.
Yep.
So we'll go in, we obviously have to install the box for them and we'll take them through that and it seems to work okay. We also do random drive-through sort of audits just to make sure that everything's working and touch base with the schools if we've got any concerns.
Do you do an inspection of the actual signage itself? Sometimes the LED lights, some of
Yes,
them
they
drop
bulb,
out and you
yes.
get a pixelated view.
That's right, yeah. So that's part of our normal review and we also rely on the schools to be checking and let us know because they're obviously the ones that are on site every day.
We don't operate the one at Horatu School, do we?
Correct, we do not.
Okay, good. So I know it's just outside. So with future new schools starting, do we still have to go through this process each time a school's, or do we now have full coverage that the staff can just operationally set up a new one without doing this?
Through this report, we have, I guess, future-proofed for the new Sylvester School that will be coming into operation in
But that's mentioned
2019.
specifically. What if someone sets up a charter school, believe it, or whatever that's going to call them in future, somewhere just out of the blue in next term or something like that, and we don't have all that much warning? Can we just go in and do it?
Not under the way the bylaw is set up currently, but what I'd like to do is work through the task force to look at amendment to the bylaw to enable that to be a lot easier in the future.
So once we've done that bit of exercise, we wouldn't have to bring it back to this, a school 40K one back to this.
That would be the aim, that we could basically develop a speed management plan that sets up some of those sort of key philosophies, as well as sets out what our plan is for the next sort of 3 years, and that's where I'd like to pick up those additional requests that we've had for speed limit changes, so we take that through the task force to think about that, and then set it up so that we can implement speed limits via a committee resolution rather than having to go out through the full bylaw process.
Thanks. And the last one I had, Madam Chair, was the Gordonton Road situation. This approves the variable speed sign zone, if you like, between the two signs, I guess. You heard the submitter just before say that they would favour 60 k's the whole stretch from Wairere intersection out to Thomas Road, out to that 60 k sign. So how does that get discussed? And where, because I know if this was an RMA type hearing, we would be able to take that on board and make a decision there, but I suspect it's more bureaucratic than that in these rules.
Your suspicion is correct. Basically the way the bylaw is set up currently, in order to make a change, we have to go out and do that special consultative procedure. So the consultation has been on a variable.
Yep.
And basically, where we get through to the next G&I committee is basically a yes or no to accepting the proposed change.
Right.
There is not the ability to alter.
Can you, and maybe this is the question for follow-up, Madam Chair, can you put that permanent 60k idea onto the list for the working party to look at?
Yes, I think that would definitely be one that we're looking at as part of that. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McPherson. Can I just follow up on that? Are we not able to make changes to respond to submissions at the deliberations period, which is Councillor McPherson's question? It's not simply a yes or no. We're legally bound to deliberate and discuss and respond to submissions.
The difficulty you have is if you alter anything if it's anything other than a yes or no, it hasn't been out for consultation.
No, but
and so if you alter it, then you should go back out to consultation, because your altered proposal may create different feedback and thoughts. You know, people who have said yes, it's okay, may not like.
But we've also
revised
had a submitter say no, it's not okay, and request something else. The committee is able to deliberate and make a change without consulting. Otherwise, there would be no point in deliberations. Perhaps that's a point. I mean, I've been here 10 years, and that's how we've done it. So I don't know that it would be different for traffic bylaws. It may be that it is, and I haven't picked that up in 10 years, but
So I guess the difficulty is there's two pieces of legislation we're working under for the consultation. There is the local government bylaw requirements around consultation, but we also have the speed limit rule requirements, and that requires us to consult with a number of parties around any change. So if we make a change at this committee, I believe that we're bound by the speed limits rule, at least, to go back out and say, okay, we've got an alternate proposal that we'd like you to consider, and get their feedback on that before a final decision was made.
okay, so I'm of a different view, so perhaps we can pick that up and governance can pick that up and give us a definitive answer, because I'd be quite surprised by that, given I've been a part of, and certainly Councillor McPherson has many years, and I've never had that message from staff before.
That message was clearly given in previous speed. I think it's because of the speed limit component
all right,
of it. So most of the bylaws that you will have been hearing will have been done primarily under the Local Government Act.
All right.
And I agree that that may have that ability. In
Well, it
this
does.
case, because of speed limits and the requirement to do it under the speed limits rule,
Okay.
it puts those additional
All right,
requirements on us.
It may depend on which act has got preeminence,
Yeah.
because one's a rule which administered by government sort of regulatory processes, and the other is a actual act that covers a whole lot more things than just this, but it does cover this area as well.
Yeah.
So which has got preeminence, maybe.
Okay.
So at the 2013, when we had quite a number of proposals where there was not support for it, we did seek legal advice at that stage, and that was the understanding
Okay.
given to the committee at that time. So
All right.
that's a report, I guess, that I've gone back to and based that
Okay,
advice
and
on.
then, okay, thanks, Robin, and you'll note Councillor McPherson's wish to, we'll have some language on that, we'll have some language on that in the report, as well as that schools issue to go to the task force. So you'll put that in a recommendation, I guess we have to do that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Councillor Bunting?
Thanks, Madam Chair. So just following on from that, the quickest option for us to get a permanent 60k along that stretch of road is to notify you now that that's what we'd like to go out to consultation. Is that right? From here?
Yes, so what my recommendation would be is that we sit down and have a look at the speed limits bylaw and how it's set up.
Right.
So currently the way the bylaw is established, we've got schedules which are in effect included within the bylaw. So to make a change under the Local Government Act, you're required to consult on the bylaw.
Yep.
If we move to separate those schedules out to registers, like we have for the traffic bylaw, then and set that bylaw up to say that this is how we're going to manage those registers, which we've had for the traffic bylaw. We've specifically said in the traffic bylaw, these are the items that will be included as registers. These are the processes we will do, so consultation and that sort of thing, and changes will be via a committee resolution. And those changes we take through actually this committee in the form of the parking report and that sort of thing, which is the minutes that you signed off at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So it's about how we legally set up and separate the two processes.
Right, okay. The other thing is we've had a fair few submissions, a fair few comments over time, including Mark before, talking about the proximity of those temporary signs.
Correct.
To the, now, I couldn't find anywhere in the documentation that it had to be at a certain distance away. So how easy is it just to pick them up, move them a couple of 100 metres down the road?
So in the bylaw, we have the distances specified. That work has been done with NZTA. So that's looking at the safe stopping site distance and those sorts of things. So we've adjusted it for that particular site. Having visited site on Friday with councillors, I think there's a couple of trees that can be trimmed for the northbound vehicles, which will actually enable those variable signs, the electronic signs, to be seen over a far greater distance. And I think the big thing is that because they're electronic and rather than permanent, they are actually very visible over
Yes,
a very
yes.
long distance. And
Yeah.
if we maximise that via a little bit of tree trimming, I think in effect you get a very long coverage, which you wouldn't get with a permanent 60
Yeah,
necessarily, because a permanent 60 sign will just not actually be that visible over that distance. Yes, and there are now lead-in signs as well.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I totally, the trouble is, as a cyclist, you can't get past those lead-in signs without going out into the road and,
Yeah.
you know, kissing everybody goodbye. And as a motorist, I've found even slowing down, by the time you slow down, you're speeding up again. And it's, you know, just from personal experience. So what you're saying is it's not an option to move the signs. Is that right?
It would be something we could discuss with NZTA. I think we have got them in the recommended locations, and you're looking at some considerable expense to move them as well.
No, okay. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
great. Okay, look, thanks very much, Robin and committee members. That was a good 27-minute meeting. So this doesn't change from the staff recommendation. It's just a bit more concise and short, and follows along the same motions that we've done in the past for hearings. Merely that we've received a report, we've heard, and then we pass the work on to the Growth and Infrastructure Committee to deliberate. So if that's all okay with everyone?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's another slightly broader issue about going forward. It still worries me that we have to second guess what sort of speed limits we might want in order to cover them, even with cover that possibility, even with the new arrangements, a new bylaw wording that Robin's talking about. So I'd be looking for something where we can have a quick reaction, where, for instance, if we come up with something when we open Borman Road to K Road, which is going to happen soon. Maybe, we suddenly realise there's problems there, we need to put in a variable sign or some other quick fix that we can legally do that immediately, if that's what we want to do, that we're not inhibited somehow. So I don't know. What I'm saying is when the report comes back from Robin, I think we need to be shown ways that we can have that quick reaction in a complete range. I've no idea what future circumstances will be, but we need to be able to quickly get in there rather than go through torturous sort of processes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I guess what I would be recommending is that we do have something in there that says, you know, where we have a safety issue, and we could do it on safety grounds, that we need to where we need to respond quickly.
And then without consultation, we can bang.
I think what we could do probably is still link into the speed limits rule, which is around those key parties. So it's the AA, the police, RTF, but that sort of consultation can be done quite quickly.
Yeah, quite quickly
within a week or two.
We might want to do it that night.
If it was a variable, unless we've got one sitting there, it won't be. But they're the sorts of things I think when we go through that bylaw, they're the sorts of discussions that would be really good to have, so that we can think about all of the different scenarios, and is there a way that we could respond to, have we thought about?
I'm not trying to get the answer now, I'm just trying to make sure that we can cover it. I remember the example of when the kid, I think it was a 16-year-old kid, was killed on crossing Ruakura Road, Boys High student, to get to the entrance to Innovation Park in Ruakura Ag Centre, and pretty much overnight or the next day we put up what we later found we weren't allowed to, a temporary 60k speed limit sign, because you're not allowed to use temporary for that sort of, because it's not road. I don't know what the exact reason was, but it wouldn't have been legally enforceable. So that was a quick reaction, because we realised that speeds were too high through that area, and it was a crossing point for vulnerable people. So we've got to be able to handle that sort of situation.
Because this is a long process.
It is.
Yeah, and then in 2 weeks, would
It's
have
a long
been
process, this one.
perhaps too long.
That's right, yeah. Okay, so you're clear about that request as well, to have a think about how we can respond much quicker and what's open to us?
Yes, I believe
do
that
that.
that's something that we can work through the task force with, and look to have a new speed limits bylaw proposal out in the new year that then enables us to work through those sorts of things.
Yes, okay. All right, so I'll move that motion that's on the board, seconded by councillor Casson. Thank you. All those anyone wishing to debate? All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Thank you very much. The meeting is closed.
Thanks.
We've probably got time to do another street name change, given that sort of 2 hours was allocated for the meeting.
There's a new highway called It's My Way or The.